Hello, YouTube, Facebook. This is Dr. Leon McCray broadcasting to you from the Dickinson Center in Daytona Beach. Let me turn the camera around so you can see Well, the Dickinson Center in the background here just went through a $2.4 million renovation and total improvement. You can see all the trees and stuff that they put on the lawn. And the reason I mentioned this, and this regarding real estate, is buying in the pathway of progress. And what do you do regarding real estate as an investor when you look at the high inflation rate, high interest rates that are going on? What do? Do you still buy, or do you wait until the market gets better? Well, I say that to say this. I just purchased a home right across the street from the Dickinson Center, and I would call that in the pathway of progress. Okay, so let me give you my thoughts on buying in this particular market. I think all markets are a good time to buy if you buy right. And if you're a real estate investor, you must buy right. And what do I mean by buying right? Well, as a real estate investor, I particularly don't want to pay market prices for what I buy. I want to buy under market. And so even if I'm buying at market, I must see some hidden value in the property that would allow me to force equity in the property by making improvements to the property. Maybe I can turn a garage into a bedroom, maybe finish a basement like I used to do in Virginia, or you see some type of hidden value in the property. Maybe they got a closet that I can convert into a bathroom and turn it from a three bedroom, one bath into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. But you have to be in a position where you see value or potential for a value add to the property that you can force equity into the property that's going to raise your after repair value, or the after you make the improvements value to a particular property. And that's one of the things that I like to do. And let me just kind of flip the camera around just a little bit. All right, if you see the white truck, to the left of the white truck, this is the little house that I bought right across from the Dickinson Center, which is a community center. Like I said, they just spent $2.4 million on the improvements. Okay, I bought this house, and let me tell you how I bought it. It was a very challenging buy, because what happened, the person that was living here, they passed away, and some people that were involved with it, they kind of stepped up and started renting the place. But they didn't own the place. I didn't know that, because I had been talking to them several years ago. They didn't own the place, but they had been renting it out, even though they did not own it. Okay, and so one of the tenants got notified that the house is going into probate, and the lawyer that's representing the probate or the estate owners gave them some information that they were probably going to have to leave the property because they wanted to improve the property, and a hedge fund wanted to buy this particular property. And this gentleman came, because I own the property next door where you see the truck. That individual came to me and asked me, would I be interested in buying the property, because you own the property next door, and if you bought the property, would you allow us to stay in the property? We don't want to leave. We're senior citizens, and we would like to continue to stay in the property. Well, I had already been interested in that property because I had already contacted the lady who I thought was the owner of the property, but I found out later on that she didn't own the property. She was just taking in the rents for the property. Okay, and so I said, yes, I'd be interested in owning this property. Do you have the information for the probate lawyer? So I contacted the probate lawyer, and the lawyer said, well, I want $90,000 for the property, but there's a problem. I've already offered it to a hedge fund for $90,000. And I had been willing to offer more on this property some time ago, a year or so ago, before the market had kind of came down. But because I owned the lot next door, I was still interested in the property. He said, well, maybe, if you could give me 95, I'd be willing to talk to the hedge fund and get out of this deal and sell it to you for 95. Long story short, we agreed to that $95,000 price, and I gave him a contract, and I wrote in the contract, all the different terms of the contract. And as a real estate investor, when you see something that you believe is a deal, you want to make sure that you lock it down. What does it lock it down mean? That means that you put it on the contract. So I put it on the contract. I actually wrote the contract myself. So when you write the contract, then you can pretty much control what the terms and agreements that you are signing for on a particular contract. So I like to write my own contracts because I have control of what I put in the contract. So I did write the contract. I presented it to the lawyer. The lawyer looked at it and he signed the contract. Oh, great, okay. And then it was only, now I'm doing my due diligence on the property, and I find out, the probate attorney contacts me and said, look, I'm a lawyer, and I want to do the title work on the property. I said, okay, well, I didn't think too much of it because I knew what I had wrote in my contract that we both signed is that I identify my title company, who I have a relationship with, as the entity or the individuals that will be doing the title work. So I wasn't concerned about what he said because I know what we signed contractually. So I told him to contact the title company that's identified in the contract. Well, before he could contact them, I sent that information to my title company, and my title company called the probate attorney and told him that the contract in which you signed, we are the ones that's authorized to do the title work, and do you have an amendment or modification that identifies you or your company as the one doing the title work, signed by both parties? Of course, he didn't have that. All right, so that was the first red flag, if you will. All right, so now we're marching towards closing, and also I wrote in the contract that I would be buying the property with clear and marketable title. I'm gonna say that again. Clear, you want to buy property with clear and marketable title, okay? Because when I went down to the city to find out what's going on with this particular property, I found out that there were liens on the property, liens that the city, if you have a property that's in disrepair, perhaps there's a roof that needs to be replaced, there's fencing that needs to be replaced, screen porches, whatever the situation that you can see from the outside, at least the city of Daytona Beach, they will put a lien after giving you a particular amount of time to fix the problem. If you don't fix it, they put liens on the property. And a lot of people, particularly in our community, a lot of people, they will lose their property because the city will put liens on these properties. Well, as such, when I looked at the liens that were on the property, there were $25,000 worth of liens on this particular property. Well, I wasn't that concerned about the $25,000 worth of lien because I put in the contract that I would get clear and marketable title. So as we're marching down to closing, I think I gave myself about 30 days to closing. At around the 2 to 3 week time frame, I get a call from the probate attorney's realtor that had been involved, saying that, well, you got to pay for these liens. And I say, pay how much for the liens? What do you mean? He said, well, there's $25,000 worth of lien. You're going to have to pay that on top of the $95,000 because that's why we offered you such a good price, because you're going to have to pay the liens. And I said, have you read the contract? He said, no, I haven't read the contract. Well, let me email you the contract so you'll understand what we both understand. So I sent him the contract, and he called me back after he read it and said that, yeah, I get that, but in order for you to buy this, in order for us to close, you're going to have to take care of this. And I said, well, let me say this. We have a properly executed, ratified contract. And the contract states that you as the seller would be presenting to me clear and marketable title, and the $25,000 worth of liens is your responsibility to take care of, not mine. And so this thing kind of played out over the next week and a half to 2 weeks, and we're getting out to ready to close, and they still haven't figured this thing out. And they're stalling me and telling me that, well, we're going to go home and just sell it. We're going to go on with the hedge fund and let them buy the property. Well, I wasn't that concerned because I knew that I had a contract. I had a ratified contract. No, that's not what you're going to do. And so finally it got to a point that I got a little, maybe frustrated is not the right word, but I just got to a point where I just had to kind of lay down my thought pattern. And so I wrote a letter to both the attorney and the licensed real estate agent. And I said this. I said, sir, you are licensed, and I emphasize the word licensed real estate agents. And you, sir, are a licensed attorney authorized to do business in the state of Florida. As such, when we have a contract, your responsibility is to execute this contract according to what's in the ratified contract. And at this point, with you stalling and not acting in accordance with the contract, I'm feeling somewhat damaged by what I'm hearing from you. And I use the word damage because I hear damages in the future of this licensed attorney and the licensed real estate agent. And so those are kind of trigger words. Let them know that a lawsuit could be in order to make things execute in accordance with the contract. And I always put in my contract that either one of us can sue the other for specific performance. Specific performance. That means that if you go to a court of law, a judge can look at the contract and make the determination who's right and who's wrong, and demand that the losing party make specific performance or perform in accordance with the contractual terms. Long story short, they were interested now in closing right away, okay? And so before closing, it's like the 11th o'clock hour, the attorney contacts me by phone and says, well, we got $25,000 worth of liens that instead of clearing those liens, what we would like to do, we would like to put the $25,000 in escrow, okay? And once you fix up the property, because I know you're an investor, you're going to fix up the property. And then after it's fixed up, then we'll go to the city and get the liens cleared up, and that'll be that, okay? Well, I had not had any knowledge of being able to do that. So in real estate, you learn things all the time. So I'm reading between the lines that if we put this in escrow and I do all of these repairs, they can go back to the city and get that money refunded to them, or a portion of the money, or a portion of the $25,000 returned to them. And I thought to myself, I said, well, let me get back to you, because I didn't want to make a snap decision, okay? And so after I did a little research and found out that I could go to the city, or they could go to the city, and they could petition the city based on the repairs and improvements and the correction of the code violations, that it would be an opportunity to get a refund, or to get, this refund mitigated or reduced or even eliminated, Okay. I said, well, I thought, well, why am I going to make the repairments and not participate in this $25,000 refund, if you will? And so I contacted the attorney and said, I don't feel comfortable with just putting this in, this $25,000 in escrow. Why don't we just, number one, follow through with what the contract says? Therefore, once I close, I know I got clear and marketable title, all liens are paid. Or the second option, if you want to put the lien or the $25,000 in escrow in order for me to take care of the liens, then I want to participate in this $25,000. And I think a fair offer would be $12,500 for you, $12,500 for me. Well, he was kind of, he had not a whole lot of choice at this point, because either he's going to fulfill and execute according to the contract, which means neither one of us would get the $25,000, the city would get it, or we could go with option two and both of us would have the opportunity to get $12,500. So we went with that option. I did the repairs, I did everything that was necessary, and now I went before the city, and long story short, the city approved the $25,000 reduction. I notified my title company. The title company sent me a check for $12,500, but because it had been about 2 months since I closed on the property before it got rectified, there was an additional $2,000 worth of interest and additional penalties. Well, me and my title company wrote in this agreement that we made between myself and the seller, that if things went above the $25,000, that would be at the cost of the seller, not my cost. Long story short, what happened, I got the check for the $12,500, and the seller got $12,500 minus the $2,000 in additional interest. So their check was less than the $12,500. It was about, you can do the math on that, okay? So it taught me something that, when I'm looking at properties that got liens on them, I can escrow those funds and make this deal for myself. Had I known I was in such a strong position, I probably could have negotiated a 60-40, 60% of that money come to me, 60% of that money, or 40% of that money goes to the seller. You learn over time, but how many you know that, hey, a win is a win is a win, okay? So the important thing was not to get in a long drawn out argument or a long drawn out process trying to come to a conclusion, is to get the deal done, get the $12,500 put in my pocket. Now think of the math, okay? $95,000 for the property, but I got $12,500 back. So that has reduced now my cost for the property, all right? After buying the property, this is what makes this such a sweet deal. You really got to understand real estate, okay? First of all, after I bought the property, there were 2 tenants living in the property, and they each gave me a check, or cash actually, for $650 each. That's $1,300. My payments was only $1,000, okay? So I'm immediately making money. Now the property needed a lot of work. Okay? So I made an agreement with the tenants that you could stay here, but I was going to rehab the property, okay? And I'm gonna fast forward a bit. I did rehab the property. I put it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I put a brand new bathroom, 2 brand new bathrooms, fully renovated. I put a brand new kitchen cabinets, countertops, the whole 9 yards, new flooring, freshly painted, lighting. I did all kind of work in the house. That was about $36,000 worth of work, okay? But what it allowed is once the third bedroom was finished, I brought another tenant in for $700 a month. Now this property, this 3-bedroom, 2-bath property is producing $2,000 a month. Somebody say, hey. So I mean, I'm just looking at this whole 9 yards. So when you talk about buying property in a high interest environment, inflationary environment, you have to buy right. And then you have to make some smart decisions, okay? But the sweet thing about this is that I bought it with hard money, okay? Well, that's not quite true. What happened, I applied for a hard money loan, and the time crunch to get things done I was running up against a time crunch. And so what I had to do to come up with the $95,000, I had to empty my IRA accounts, my individual retirement accounts, a couple of them, as well as the cash, some of the cash I had in savings to come up with the amount of money needed to close on this house. I had to do that. But once I closed on the house, it wasn't but about a week or 2 weeks later that I got the money from the hard money lender. And so when the hard money lender, their appraiser came out to the property, I thought the property was going to appraise for about $150,000 or something like that, which would leave me, a good cushion, okay? But what happened, based on the work that I told the appraiser I would do, they appraised it out at $210,000. Think about that, $210,000. Okay, I was gonna put $36,000 in it. It cost me $95,000, but that was reduced by the $12,500 that I got back from the city. But my after repair value is $210,000. And from day one, it was cash flowing because I had 2 tenants paying $1,300. Now I've done the repairs, and now I got 3 tenants that are paying $2,000. Somebody said praise them. You see, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to get out there and do it. It was a stressful project to get it from beginning to end, but you have to know these things, and you need to know how to do these things. I know how to do it. Thanks be to God. God showed me this property. He showed me what to do, and I did it. This is Dr. Leon K. McCray, broadcasting live from Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm right across from the Dickerson Center at my new purchase. And if you like videos like this, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like it, share it, hit the bell so whenever I broadcast, I can give you this kind of important information that's going to thrust you to the next level so you can do the same thing. As always, beloved, I wish above all things that you prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. God bless.